Baseball may not have the reputation that football or hockey have when it comes to gruesome injuries, but you might not know MLB has seen its fair share of shocking injuries on the diamond. A bad injury can end a player's career, dash a team's playoff hopes, or have even worse consequences. Throughout the course of the sport's history, baseball fans have witnessed some truly shocking on-field collisions, line drives to the face, and even weirder, more random and unexpected freak accidents. Many baseball fans don't realize just how dangerous a baseball diamond can be, particularly at the major league level where the athletes are bigger, stronger, faster, throw the baseball harder, and hit the ball with a greater exit velocity. But there have been injuries that didn't just alter the trajectory of players' careers. There have been injuries that have literally changed lives forever. Let's take a look at the top 5 most brutal injuries in the history of Major League Baseball. Injury number 5. On April 8, 1997, Josias Manzanillo was pitching for the Seattle Mariners against the Cleveland Indians when Manny Ramirez hit a 107-mile-per-hour line drive directly at Manzanillo's groin. This has got to be one of the most unluckiest injuries in the history of sports. Manzanillo was not wearing a protective cup to protect that area, and it turned out that he was forced to get one testicle surgically removed. That's an absolutely brutal outcome, and it makes it all the more impressive that in the moment, Manzanillo was able to get up, field the ball, and throw out a runner from third base heading to home plate. After Manzanillo threw out the runner, though, he collapsed to the field where he remained for nearly 5 minutes writhing in pain. Incredibly, though, when he stood up, he sprinted off the field into the dugout, which was his signature exit whenever he was done pitching. 1 month after his testicle-removing surgery, Manzanillo was back on the mound for the Mariners, but he was psychologically shaken by the incident and became fearful of line drives being hit back at him. He posted an ERA of .750 in just 11 games, got sent down to the minors, and the Mariners released him the following year. He bounced back, though, and pitched in the majors until he was 36 years old, just not for the Mariners. He always wore a protective cup and sometimes hit himself in the crotch when he was fired up. The Manzanillo story is truly a pitcher's worst nightmare, but he handled the situation about as well as humanly possible. Injury number 4. In 1976, Dodgers catcher Steve Yeager was nearly killed in the on-deck circle when Bill Russell's bat broke on a ground ball and the barrel of the bat flew towards Yeager and became lodged in his neck. According to one coach, Yeager fell down as though he'd been shot with a bullet. Confused about what exactly happened to him, Yeager shouted out, "I broke my shoulder." His neck and torso were covered in blood. The wound was 3 inches deep and 9 wooden splinters remained lodged in his neck. He was stretchered off the field and rushed to a hospital where a surgeon made a 4-inch incision into his neck to remove all the splinters. A Dodgers team spokesman told reporters Yeager was nearly hit in the nerve column, which controls feeling in his arms and hands, and also nearly hit in his windpipe and a major artery. In other words, Yeager's injury could have paralyzed him or proved fatal. But the Yeager story ends happier than Manzanillo's. Yeager had to wear a throat guard to play catcher because one more blow to the throat could have killed him, and that was how the catcher's throat guard became part of every catcher's gear. He played 10 more seasons in the majors and won a World Series with the Dodgers in 1981. Injury number 3. The third most gruesome injury was more recent, taking place in 2006 during a September game between the Nationals and the Mets. Nationals first baseman Nick Johnson ran out to shallow right field to catch a pop-up hit in the 8th inning, only to collide hard with right fielder Austin Kearns. Johnson went down and screamed in pain. Kearns said it made him sick to see his teammate writhing around in agony like that. It turned out Johnson had broken his leg and fractured his femur, one of the most painful things a person can experience. He underwent surgery and missed the entire 2007 season. It was a shame too because Johnson was having an excellent campaign in 2006, putting up career numbers, and while he had a solid career after returning from surgery, he never got back to those standout 2006 numbers. He suffered a wrist injury in 2008, which cost him yet another season of his career, and he retired in 2013 after a frustrating career full of injuries, his femur fracture easily taking the cake as the most painful and most gruesome. Injury number 2. Yet another gruesome incident in the on-deck circle. St. Louis Cardinals outfielder Juan Encarnacion was waiting his turn to hit in a 2007 game against the Cincinnati Reds when teammate Aaron Miles hit a foul back right at him. The ball struck Encarnacion directly in his left eye and ended his playing career. He lay on the ground motionless as the stunned crowd looked on until he was rushed to a nearby hospital. A team doctor called Encarnacion's injury the worst facial trauma he had ever seen in his career, and he compared the damage done to Encarnacion's eye socket to a cracked eggshell, nearly impossible to put back together perfectly. Encarnacion's vision in that eye was permanently damaged, though he made some slight improvements over time. However, when it was time for the 2008 season, his vision in that eye was only around 2400, and there was no way he was going to be able to play baseball at the major league level. His contract was up at the end of the 2008 season, so the Cardinals placed him on the 60-day injured list, and he retired when the year ended. It's a sad way to end a strong 11-year career in which he hit for a .270 average, knocked 156 home runs, and won a World Series championship. Injury number 1. This last injury is a doozy. In August of 1920, Hall of Fame shortstop Ray Chapman of the Cleveland Indians was hit in the head with a fastball thrown by Carl Mays of the New York Yankees. At the time, it was common common practice among pitchers to throw spitballs and otherwise dirty up or scuff the ball, and it's believed May was throwing a spitball submarine style when he hit Chapman in the skull. Eyewitnesses think Chapman didn't even see the ball due to the abnormal submarine throwing motion because he didn't try to get out of the way. The umpire saw blood leaking from Chapman's ear and called for a doctor. Chapman muttered a few words as he was helped off the field before he fell unconscious and was rushed to a hospital. He died at 4 a.m. in the morning. He was 29 years old and left behind a pregnant wife. The Cleveland Indians wore black armbands for the remainder of the 1920 season, and MLB banned the use of spitballs to prevent something like this from happening again. MLB also decided the baseballs would be cleaned before every game, so they'd be as wide as possible and therefore easier to see. The purpose of muddying the baseball for a pitcher was to make the ball harder to detect. That may have cost Ray Chapman his life. It's a dark chapter in baseball's history, but it led to some improvements in player safety, and Chapman should be remembered as an excellent shortstop with a talent for bunting, taking his walks, stealing bases, and scoring runs. These are the 5 most gruesome injuries to ever occur in the game of baseball at the major league level, but there are many more awful injuries from all across the sports timeline, and there will unfortunately be more ugly injuries in the years to come. While baseball may not be a contact sport, the baseball is flying around at 100 miles an hour and can do a lot of damage to a person's body, not to mention the impact of a collision between 2 defenders running full speed, or, like in the old days, a base runner running full speed at a catcher for a play at the plate. Baseball can be dangerous, and it's important to remember that major league players are human beings too. Let us know what you thought of these injuries and what other gruesome MLB